There are men who build empires, and there are men who destroy families. Daniel Harrington was both. At 42 years old, he sat at the top of Harrington Industries, a global technology conglomerate worth $11 billion. His name was on buildings, on magazine covers, on the lips of investors, competitors, and admirers across 4 continents. He had the corner office on the 43rd floor, the private jet, the penthouse in the city, and the estate in the countryside. The watches, the cars, the dinners at tables that required months of waiting just to reserve. He had all of it. And he had thrown away the only thing that actually mattered. His wife's name was Sophia. She was not the kind of woman people forgot, not because of the way she looked, though she was beautiful in that quiet, unassuming way that stays with you long after louder beauty has faded, but because of the way she moved through the world, with a steadiness, a clarity. A warmth that had nothing to do with performance and everything to do with who she actually was. She had been a pediatric nurse when Daniel met her, working double shifts, studying for her master's degree on weekends, raising her younger brother after their parents died, doing all of it without complaint, without drama, without asking anyone for anything. He had fallen in love with her in the way that only happens once, completely, irreversibly. Without understanding the full weight of it until much later, when it was already gone. They married when he was 31 and she was 28. They built a life, a real one. Not the performance of a life, but the thing itself. Sunday mornings in the kitchen, arguments about small things, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else, the particular comfort of knowing someone completely. And then came Lily, their daughter. Born on a Thursday in November, 7 years into their marriage. Small and fierce and perfect in the way that only newborns are, before the world has had any time to touch them. Daniel held her for the first time and felt something crack open in his chest. He told himself he would be different. He told himself that becoming a father would change things, would reorder his priorities, would make him the man that Sophia deserved and that Lily needed. He told himself that for 3 years, while he worked 18-hour days, while he missed birthdays and bath times and first words and first steps, while he answered emails during dinner and took calls during bedtime stories and arrived home after midnight to a house where the lights were already off, while he let someone else in. Her name was Victoria, his chief strategy officer. Brilliant, ambitious, beautiful in a sharp and deliberate way that was the opposite of Sophia in every possible sense. It started slowly, the way these things always do, always with a pretense that it was nothing, that it was professional, that it was just the natural result of spending so much time together. And then it was everything. For 2 years, Daniel Harrington lived 2 lives, and told himself that both of them were manageable. He was wrong. It was a Tuesday. Lily was 3 years old. Sophia had come to the office to surprise Daniel for lunch, something she rarely did anymore, because she had learned, slowly and painfully, not to expect to be a priority. But it was their anniversary, 10 years since their first date. And she had told herself that this year would be different. She brought food from the restaurant where they had eaten on their first date. She had arranged for her mother to watch Lily. She had worn the blue dress that Daniel had once told her was his favorite. She took the elevator to the 43rd floor, and she saw them, through the glass wall of the conference room, not doing anything dramatic, not anything that could be explained away, just standing together with the particular closeness of 2 people who have long since crossed a line. Victoria's hand on Daniel's arm, his head bent toward her, both of them laughing at something private and shared. The kind of laugh that belongs only to people who know each other in ways they shouldn't. Sophia stood in the hallway for a long moment. The food in her hands suddenly felt very heavy. She turned around, took the elevator back down, walked through the marble lobby and out into the street, and kept walking for 6 blocks before she stopped on a bench in a small park and sat down and stared at nothing for a very long time. She did not cry. Not yet. She was too busy understanding. Not just what she had seen, but everything that came before it. Every cancelled dinner, every excuse. Every time she had pushed down the feeling that something was wrong because she was afraid of what confirming it would cost her. She understood all of it now, with the particular clarity of someone who has finally stopped lying to themselves. She stood up from the bench and began to plan. She didn't confront him that night, or the next, or the one after that. Sophia Harrington had not survived everything she had survived by being impulsive. She had grown up with nothing, had built herself from nothing, had learned that the difference between people who endure and people who collapse is almost always preparation. So she prepared, quietly, methodically, without Daniel noticing, which was not difficult, because Daniel had long since stopped paying attention to the details of her daily life. She opened a bank account in her name only. She gathered copies of important documents. She found an apartment, small, clean, in a good school district. She spoke to a lawyer. She arranged her finances with the precision of someone who had once had nothing and knew exactly how to start again from scratch. She told no one, not her friends, not her mother, not her brother. Only Lily knew something was changing. 3-year-olds sense things that adults have learned to ignore. She became quieter in those weeks, more watchful. She followed Sophia from room to room, with her small, serious eyes, as if she understood, at some deep, wordless level, that the world she knew was about to become something different. On a Friday morning, 6 weeks after the Tuesday in the office hallway, Sophia packed 2 suitcases, one for herself, one for Lily. She dressed Lily in her favorite yellow jacket. She made sure the apartment was left exactly as it always was. She wrote a letter. Not long, not dramatic, just clear. I know. I have known for some time. I am not angry. I am not asking for anything. I am taking our daughter, and I am leaving. My lawyer will be in touch. Please do not look for us. She left it on the kitchen counter. She picked up Lily, and she walked out the door. He came home at 11:30 that night. The house was quiet in the way it always was. Sophia and Lily were always asleep by the time he arrived. He loosened his tie, poured a glass of water, noticed the letter on the counter. Read it again. Stood in the kitchen for a long time. And this was the thing that would define everything that followed, the thing that Lily would one day need to understand and confront. He did not go after them. Not that night. Not the next day. Not in the weeks that followed. He told himself it was respect for Sophia's wishes. He told himself she needed space. He told himself the lawyers would sort it out, and that Lily was better off with a stable mother than a disrupted father. He told himself many things, but the truth he could not say out loud, even to himself, was simpler and darker. He was relieved, not of Sophia, not of Lily. He missed them in a way that sat in his chest like a stone, but of the collision, of the moment when 2 lives become one reckoning, of the confrontation he had been dreading for 2 years. Sophia had removed it, and some part of him, the part that had always chosen comfort over courage, let her. He threw himself into work, into Victoria, into the performance of a man whose life was exactly as he had chosen it. And somewhere across the city, in a small, clean apartment, in a good school district, a 3-year-old girl in a yellow jacket was learning, in the wordless way that children learn the most important things, that her father had let them go. Time moved the way it always does, without asking permission. Sophia built a new life with the same quiet determination she brought to everything. She finished her master's degree. She was promoted. She made a home, not a large or expensive one, but a real one, filled with books and plants and the particular warmth of a place where someone is genuinely present. She dated, eventually, carefully, never seriously enough to disrupt what she and Lily had built together. She spoke to Daniel only through lawyers, accepted the financial settlement without fighting for more than was fair, asked for nothing beyond what Lily needed. She never told Lily that her father was a bad man. She never spoke badly of him at all. When Lily asked, and she asked, in the way children ask about the missing pieces of their lives, with a directness that adults have forgotten how to match, Sophia always answered the same way. Your father and I made different choices. He loves you in his own way, but he wasn't able to be here. It was the truth. Incomplete, but true. Lily grew, from the serious 3-year-old in the yellow jacket into a serious girl of 7, 10, 12. She was her mother's daughter in almost every way, quiet and observant and extraordinarily capable. She read constantly. She asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. She had Sophia's steadiness and buried somewhere beneath it, Daniel's intensity. She did not ask about her father often, but she thought about him always. She kept a box under her bed. In it, a photograph of the 3 of them from when she was 2, a birthday card signed in handwriting she didn't recognize, a newspaper article about Harrington Industries with his face on it. She studied his face in that photograph sometimes, looking for herself in it, finding more than she wanted to. Daniel Harrington's life continued to expand on the outside. Harrington Industries grew. Victoria became his official partner in business and, eventually, in the performative sense of a relationship built more on alignment than on love. They appeared at events together. They were photographed. They were written about. He was, by every external measure, successful. And he was hollower every year. It came slowly, the way damage always comes when you don't deal with it, not in a single moment of collapse, but in a gradual erosion. A growing distance from everything that had once felt real. A vague but persistent sense that the life he was living was a very expensive, very convincing replica of an actual life. He thought about Lily, more than he had ever admitted. He had photos of her, sent dutifully by Sophia's lawyer on birthdays and at Christmas, as per their agreement. He watched her grow in those photographs, the way you watch a film when you've missed the beginning, trying to understand the story from fragments, feeling the particular grief of a narrative you removed yourself from. She had his eyes. He noticed that every time, dark and direct and uncomfortably perceptive. It was Victoria, of all people, who finally said what needed to be said. On a quiet evening in the penthouse, with the city spread below them, she looked at him across the dinner table and said, "You're not here, Daniel. You haven't been here for a long time." A pause. "I think you know where you actually are." He looked at her. "You should find them," she said, "before it's too late." He didn't respond, but that night, alone, he opened his laptop and began to look. It was not difficult to find them. Sophia had not hidden. She had simply moved on, which is a different thing entirely, and, in some ways, harder to face. She was living 40 minutes from the city. She was the head of nursing at a children's hospital, She had a small house with a garden. She had a life that looked, from the outside, exactly like what it was, complete, functional, and built entirely without him. Lily was 16. 16. He had missed 13 years. He drove past the house once, sat outside for 20 minutes. Then drove away. He called Sophia's number, which he still had always kept, had never deleted. She answered on the third ring. Daniel, not surprised, not angry. Just his name, said in the flat tone of someone who has long since processed something and moved to the other side of it. Sophia. His voice came out differently than he intended, less controlled. I want to see Lily. A long silence. That's not my decision to make anymore, she said finally. She's 16. Ask her yourself, will she want to see me? Another silence. I don't know, Sophia said, honest as always, unfailingly, devastatingly honest, but she deserves the chance to decide. She gave him Lily's number, and hung up. He stared at the number for 3 days before he called it. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been expecting it, as if she had been waiting for it for 13 years. I know who you are, she said. Before he could speak, her voice was calm, low. Older than 16 had any right to sound. Mum told me you might call. Lily. Her name in his mouth felt like something he didn't deserve to say. I want to. I'll meet you, she said. Once, you get one meeting, and I have questions, and you answer them honestly. All of them. He swallowed. Yes, anything. Saturday, 11 o'clock. There's a cafe near the hospital where my mum works. She'll send you the address. Okay. And Daniel, he noticed she didn't call him Dad. Don't be late. He arrived 20 minutes early. Sat at a corner table, ordered coffee. He didn't drink. Watched the door. She walked in at exactly 11 o'clock. And he understood, in the way that hits you physically before it registers mentally, that he was looking at someone extraordinary. She was tall, dark hair, his eyes, exactly his eyes, that same direct, uncomfortable gaze in her mother's face. She moved like Sophia, that same unhurried certainty. That same quality of taking up exactly the space she needed and not 1 inch more. She sat down across from him, looked at him, and said nothing for a long moment. He felt, for the first time in longer than he could remember, genuinely afraid. You look like your photographs, she said finally. You look like your mother, he said. I know. Something in her expression shifted almost imperceptibly. I take that as a compliment. It is one. She folded her hands on the table. I'm going to ask you things, she said, and I need you to understand something first. I'm not here because I'm angry. I processed the anger a long time ago. I'm here because I have spent 16 years with a missing piece, and I would like to understand it before I decide what to do with it. He nodded. Ask me anything. She did. She started simply. Did you know about me before Mum left? Yes. Did you love me? He didn't hesitate. Yes, from the moment I held you. Then why didn't you come after us? The questions sat in the air between them like something with weight. Daniel Harrington, who had negotiated billion-dollar deals, who had faced boardrooms and regulators and hostile takeovers without flinching, looked at his 16-year-old daughter and felt the full cost of the truth he had been avoiding for 13 years. Because I was a coward, he said. She blinked. She had not expected that. I told myself it was respect for your mother's wishes, that you'd be better off without the disruption, that the lawyers would handle it. He paused. But the truth is that I had spent 2 years making choices I was ashamed of, and when your mother left, she took the moment of reckoning with her. And I let her. Because some part of me was relieved not to have to face it. Silence. And us, Lily said quietly. Me and Mum, were you relieved to lose us too? No. His voice broke on the word, just slightly, but enough. That was the thing I didn't understand until it was too late. I thought I could separate the relief from the loss. I couldn't. I have missed you every day for 13 years. Then why now? She asked. Why not 5 years ago? 10 years ago? Why now? Because I ran out of ways to pretend it didn't matter. She looked at him for a long time. Those eyes, his eyes, seeing him more clearly than he had ever seen himself. That's honest, she said finally. It's the least I owe you. She unfolded her hands, looked down at the table, then back up at him. I'm not going to forgive you today, she said. I want to be clear about that. Forgiveness isn't something I hand out because someone finally shows up and tells the truth. It's something that gets built, slowly, if it gets built at all. I understand, but I'm willing to find out what you are, she said, not what you were. Not what you should have been, what you actually are now. A pause, if you're willing to do the same work. He looked at his daughter, at the person who had grown entirely without him, into someone he had done nothing to deserve. I am, he said. She nodded once, picked up the menu. Then we can start by you buying me breakfast, she said. And you can tell me something true about yourself that has nothing to do with your company or your money. For the first time in that conversation, he almost smiled. That might take me a minute, he said. I have time, she said simply. And somehow, in those 3 words, in the particular way she said them, he heard Sophia. And he understood, fully and finally, the size of what he had lost. And the fragile, uncertain, entirely unguaranteed possibility of what might still be built. The meetings continued. Not every week. Not with any pretense of a normal father-daughter relationship, because that was not what they were, and Lily refused to perform something that wasn't real. But they met, they talked, sometimes icily, sometimes with the weight of everything unsaid pressing against the conversation. He told her things he had never told anyone, about his father, about the fear beneath the ambition, about the moment he had understood what he had done, and the years he had spent not knowing how to undo it. She listened, asked more questions, pushed back when his answers were too comfortable, held him to the standard of honesty she had demanded from the first meeting. She was, he came to understand, the most rigorous person he had ever met. She got that from her mother. Sophia and Daniel spoke occasionally, with the careful courtesy of 2 people who have a shared history and a shared daughter, and have both, separately, made peace with what they were to each other. She had met someone. A quiet, steady man who was kind to Lily and present in the way that Daniel had never managed to be. Daniel was glad for her. It took him longer than it should have to get there. But he got there. On Lily's 18th birthday, 2 years after the cafe, she called him. I want you to come to my graduation next month, she said. Mum will be there. Her partner will be there. My friends will be there. You'll be just another person in the audience. I know. And that's okay with you? It's more than I deserve, he said. A pause. Yeah, she said. It is. Another pause, smaller. But you've been trying. I see that. Her voice shifted slightly. Just slightly. So come. He was in the front row. He watched his daughter walk across that stage, tall and certain and extraordinary, and he felt something move through him that he had no adequate word for. Not pride. Pride implied ownership, and he had no claim on what she had become. Something closer to witness. He had been allowed to witness. And he understood, sitting in that chair with his hands clasped and his eyes full, that this was not the end of something. It was the most fragile, most honest, most hard-won beginning. Some things cannot be undone, but some things slowly, carefully, with more honesty than is comfortable, can be rebuilt. Not the same, but real. And sometimes real is the only thing worth having.